you can go for it.
What I'll do here, boss, is read out the guy's name. That way he can be aware, and I'll read his question, and then I'll answer. How's that sound?
Perfect. Go for it, Okie.
Okay, I got Edison Simone here. On the Fighter podcast was said that full internal and 2 tanks, F-14, on certain wing angle and speed could stay airborne for 5.5 hours cap. Any truth to that? The wings would be at auto the whole time. Your best holding altitude would be around 22,000 feet because that gives you your best radar coverage. So you'd sit back and fly about 2,000 pounds a side or 4,000 pounds an hour. So if we're carrying roughly 20,000 pounds of gas, by the time you got up there, you could hang around up there for about 3.5 to 4 hours, and it'd be time to probably get plugged in probably. So 5.5 hours on one bag of gas is probably a little bit too long, unreasonable. Adam Steele here. What does it take to make a good fighter pilot? I'd say a lot of good common sense. Somewhat of an athlete kind of helps. If you're some book nerd and you live in your mom's basement, all you do is choke your chicken and read all the time, not real good. So be an athlete and good common sense, and be willing to challenge yourself and have extreme, excellent mental discipline. Trust me, you need that big time. Let's see here. Lefty 59th, what did you hate and like the most about the Tomcat? I guess probably what I didn't like about it was it took it a while to get going. I mean, on pretty cold days, because you had an old INS, it would take about 15 minutes to get the INS gel warmed up and going. But what I liked about it most after that was once you got going and got in the air, it was pretty much a kick-ass machine. Excellent engines, even with the TF-30s, and the GE engines were good. So, you know, it just took it a while to get going on the ground. That's about it. Maintenance was kind of a pain sometimes, but the more you flew them, the more they stayed up, if that makes sense. Let's see here. Question, Marcel Moser, how the F-14 behaved on ACM on the vertical plane. That was probably its best area, was work the vertical, because the average fighter guy, everybody likes to be kind of lazy and they look in the horizontal, and you have someone go out of plane in the vertical like the F-14 could and did. It made it real tough, and the F-14 had a very good vertical move to extend the aircraft in the vertical and then get as much separation between two aircraft, top and bottom, and work the vertical moves. So I was a big proponent of doing the vertical stuff in the airplane, actually in any airplane. It's pretty easy to beat people when all they do is stay in the same horizontal turn and try to outturn you out there. It's pretty easy to beat guys like that. Which did you prefer, F-14 or F-16 at ACM? I think probably the Viper, the F-16, because it was just a pure kick-ass hot rod. You could jump in it. You had ring laser gyros. You could be out of the line in about 5 or 10 minutes. Be airborne. Big GE engine back there. 28,000 pounds of thrust. So you had almost a 1-to-1 thrust to weight ratio. We didn't fly with any tanks on them because they were nice and clean. So probably it came just a pure kick-ass ACM. The F-16 was the machine, but it came probably to real wartime shit over the beach, killing people. The F-14 be my choice because you got another guy in the back seat doing his job. And the F-14D, although I didn't fly it, had an awesome radar and good survivability and better ECM gear. So, you know, they both had their pluses and minuses. Let's see here. Okay, have you done any TARPS missions? And if so, did it require any extra training? I wasn't a big TARPS guy, although I was in a TARPS squadron. I don't like carrying around an 1,850-pound pod in the back of the airplane that you could not jettison. So outside of flying low over the bad guy country, usually you didn't carry anything because you couldn't carry any missiles in the forward bay and have a TARPS pod. So I wasn't a big TARPS pod guy. And training-wise, it just required you to fly low and fast and have a map in your hand. And it took both of you to do that with you and the Rio. So it wasn't a bad mission. But, you know, later on, they got digital TARPS pod stuff where you fly over it and transmit it back to the ship. And, of course, satellites do better anyway. So that's my take on TARPS. Yeah, Paul Barrett here about the F-35. Do you think it'll be fixed? Yeah, I do. It'll be fixed. All new airplanes have their speed bumps. And the F-35, the thing you got to remember is don't listen to the press because they don't know squat. They think they do. They read one thing, all of a sudden they're an authoritarian on it. Trust the guys that are flying the airplane. I've talked to several guys that fly it and have been flying it. They love the airplane. Trust me, if I was going to go to war today, that would be my choice of airplanes. My son starts his aviation training for the Navy in July. That's what he wants to fly. So, kind of a long answer to your question. Yes, they'll get the bumps beat out. They'll keep the airplane going. It'll be a good airplane, a very viable airplane down the road. Plus, you got to remember, that's all there is. There ain't no more, folks. There's no follow-on. So it's F-35 or the skies filled with Super Hornets, which they all have the limitations. So yeah, the F-35 will get fixed. Let's see here. Sean Ellis, I thought that a lot of pro athletes have major issues with G tolerance. Or is that because they haven't mastered the NEG training maneuver? Some of that's true, but your big-time runners, because their heart rate and their blood pressure is such, have problems with G-lock because they're all kind of tall and skinny, and they lack that extra love handles and flab to kind of keep them better G tolerance. So a guy like me that was 6 foot and about 225, I had no problem with the G's, the 9, 10, sometimes 12. Your tall, skinny guys, because just the sheer fact of them being longer and leaner, they go lights out at about 4.5 or 5. So a lot of what you're talking about there is very true. But again, that's why we all use the weights and learn to master the G-lock stuff. Let's see here. Mike JF, was it common for wings to break off under stress at high speeds? No, never happened. Don't even know that it ever happened, and wasn't a problem with the F-14. So I'm not sure really what they mean by that question there. Zigzag Ground Zero, F-14 Phoenix missile. Did it have any anti-satellite capabilities? Could the radar system track low Earth targets? Yes. We would sometimes go run against the SR-71s, and we'd pick those guys up at 80, 90,000 feet. They'd come down that altitude. We could track them. Of course, we had a very narrow window to be able to shoot them. But the F-14 was talked about on several occasions, shooting satellites possibly down. They could see them up there. We never practiced that, but we did make runs in SR-71s all the time. Let's see here. Joe D. 777. Did you ever go to the Navy Fighter Derby ACM exercise? If so, how did it compare to Top Gun? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Fighter Derby ACM exercise. I have no idea what you're talking about. West Coast used to have kind of a fighter derby out there, but that was basically trying to see how many kills you got. So the two of them, Top Gun and Fighter Derby, were two different evolutions and two different type of things. So I guess long answer to your question, no. Robert McKenzie, what's your opinion on the Tornado F3 of the Royal Air Force? It's a very, very good airplane, but when they came out, it was already antiquated. The wings are manual. They've got a pretty decent Skyflash missile, which is very similar to the Sparrow, but it's not none of the ACM airplane that the Tomcat is, or the F-15 or whatever. So, it's an okay airplane. It's what the Brits have. I'm quite sure it's not as good as the what do you call the new one they got out now? Not Tornado, but the new one, Typhoon. That's it. It's not as good as a Typhoon, so it's workable. It's okay. Let's see here. What's your opinion on the Tornado 3? Okay, I got that. Hansi Dent, was the AUG-9 able to do FM ramping / pulse color coding? And if not, was that a limitation for cold speed targets? I don't really have a clue what you're asking me there. I'm not sure what ramping / pulse color coding is. I have no idea. We had pulse mode, we had PD, pulse Doppler. In other words, if you're asking if you can see chaff, it can see chaff. And it knew what chaff was. If you get your same V sub C of your own airspeed, you're locked on chaff. If you got double your closure, you're locked on a real target. That's how you always knew that. Marcel Moser, 12 Gs. Is that a bit over the limit for the Tomcat? Yes, it is. It is. But it being a good Grumman airplane, it withstood that. And I noticed that after we started doing air shows in the F-14B, that we would always open up the engine bays and inspect the turnbuckles and the engine mounts. And after about 3 or 4 shows, we would start to see that the round turnbuckles of the engine mounts were starting to get elongated because of the G's on the airplane. Because down low, the B and actually the A2, down low, I mean below 5,000 feet, it was a beast. It just wanted to run away. So yeah, 12 G's, you're getting up there. Paul Bear, what was your max, I guess, G pull to the Tomcat? And did you have take a case of beer down to the guys to fix it? No, I didn't do that. My max G one time, I think was about probably 9. I came back, wrote it up, overstress of 9 Gs. The guys go out and open the engine bays, crawl the turtle back. About 15 minutes later, you're good to go again. Again, it's a Grumman beast. You know, it does real well in high Gs. Let's see here. Just a note, Okie flew the A4, F5, F14, F16. I did fly all those. Sean Ellis, didn't Snort get to 11 Gs in combat? I have no idea. The Snort stories are long and many and all that. I won't go any further than that. Mike JF, what's your thoughts on new flight simulation games on PC, especially Heat Blur with the F-14? Do they compare to reality? I actually, with my number 2 son and myself, have been working with the Heat Blur guys. I flew the Heat Blur F-14 about a month ago. I was very impressed with the simulation. It flew, what I can remember myself, very close to the F-14. The graphics were unbelievable. I mean, beyond unbelievable. So I was very, very impressed with that. And those guys have a very good product. Another guy, JP Blast, who was one of my students back in 1984, he's also helping the Heat Blur guys, along with a Rio named Stoney out in California. They're working with the Heat Blur guys to help them also get the simulation going. But they've got a really good product, and I've been very, very impressed with the Heat Blur. Let's see here. Mobius Mirage, could the F-14 lock up stealth aircraft up to 117? Sure. I saw a stealth guy one day flying through the area, lock him up, no problem. Same with F-16, I'd lock him up also, so yeah. You got to remember, stealth is not an on-off switch. It's actually physics, and depending on where you are and the angle off that you are from him will either decrease or negate your ability to see him. So usually if you can see him, you can lock him up. So yeah, I've done that before. Let's see here. Grumman Steelworks, yep, you got that. Marcus Beer, how do you rate the tactical value of thrust vectoring? I think it's probably pretty cool. The F-22 does a pretty good job with that. I think the more you get into thrust vectoring, meaning all quadrants of the engine nozzles moving around, you get into probably more areas of them failing and breaking and not working properly like the Russians do. So, but I'm a big proponent of thrust vectoring, but is it worth the extra added weight for the aircraft for it to do that, and the extra added maintenance effort for it to do that? That I don't know, but it works real well in the F-22 because it's basically kind of a vertical thrust vectoring device in all aspects of thrust vectoring that the Sukhois have. Let's see here. Joe D777 again. What do you think of the Navy F-21 Kafir that they use for ACM? It's basically a force multiplier. If you see it, you're going to beat it. I know everybody gets their panties all wet and everything over the F-21 and the F-5s. Those have been around for 30, 40 years. All they do is go fast. They don't break. They're force multipliers. And as far as guys trained against them, if you see it, you're going to beat it. And if I get an F-14 today, if I didn't beat an F-21 or an F-5 today in an F-14, I would turn my wings in. Because you see it, you can beat it. They're not world-beating airplanes. They've been around for 50 years. They've got limited thrust and limited wing. The main thing is they don't break, and they're force multipliers, and they're cheap to operate. That's basically about it. That's the only reason the Navy has them, and the Air Force. What was the auto land and auto throttle nerve wracking in bad weather? I don't know. Auto throttles I used all the time. The Tomcat. I had one auto landing. The F-14. It was very limited. It was a force leak in the back of the airplane that would come undone all the time. So we never had what they call Mode 2 ACLS, Mode 2 lockup stuff. I use auto throttles all the time, and I'm a firm believer of auto throttles because it helps your scan coming aboard the ship. I've done. I got probably 20 airline time Boeing stuff, 737s, and I've done a buttload of auto lands and dog squeeze weather, and it works great. I love it. Does a better job than me. Let's see here. Paul Barrett. We see in the movie A4 Top Gun. Did they use the A4 as Red Air Top Gun? And is the A4 a good dogfighter? It's a good 1v1 dogfighter if it's flown properly. It's all long in the tooth now. But if you're flying an A4F, a Fox, Super Fox, basic weight in the airplane is about 12.5. The thrust and the P408 engine of a Super Fox is about 11.5. So you got about a 0.95 to 1 thrust to weight ratio. So, in the hands of a really good driver for the A4F, it's more than a handful to fight against another airplane 1v1. But when it comes to multiplane or 2v whatever, it's pretty much a grape out there. He's usually the first guy gets shot because he can't get out of the way. Let's see here. David Smith, given the reliability issues of the Sparrow, I'm surprised that pilots wouldn't prefer to fly with a couple of Phoenix versus just Sparrows. Was performance loss worse than the reliability loss? I was not a big Phoenix guy. You got 2,000-pound, what we call white buffaloes in the airplane. I'd much rather go out there. The AIM-7F Pop and later versions of the AIM-7 were all very good. They weighed 500 pounds. I can carry 4 Sparrows compared to carrying 2 Phoenix. The 2 Phoenix, again, I get rid of those early, and they're a good ACM missile because they're no escape zone inside 10 miles. You can shoot those and do what we call launch and leave. But I was give me 4 Sparrows and I'll bypass the 2 Phoenix. I don't like hearing the white buffalo. So you're John Ellis again. Something like a Sukhoi 30 MKI bleeds energy real quick at high alpha when they use thrust vectoring. That's very true. It's a nice air show maneuver, but when it comes to tactical environment and a tactical engagement, that's just a good way to get their brains gunned out. So, it's nice air show stuff. Mike JF, how does the cable system work on carriers? Well, all the carriers except the Ford uses magnetic type cables and magnetic pulse on the catapults. The normal carriers, they have the cables. There's 4 of them, 4 arresting wires, and they're all run through pulleys and levers and stuff below the deck. That when the aircraft traps and they have a certain weight setting, they put in the max land weight of the aircraft. That way, they know how much the run out's going to be on the cable, because you can snap the cable. If they put a lighter arrested landing weight on the cable and you come in heavier than that, you're going to break the cable or have a long run out, which will eventually break the cable. And if you snap a cable, it can be very dangerous as it comes back and unwinds and recoils back up again. So it's a series of pulleys and spools down below there that run out, and that's how I make it work. Very, very maintenance intensive, both the catapults and the arresting gear. A lot of guys it takes to keep them up and working, but they work very, very hard to keep those up and working, and it's a big major effort. Let's see here. Which plane put up the best fight in a dogfight? It all depends on who's flying the airplane. I mean, I've been out there with guys and a really well-flown A4 will give me all they can, and I've gone out there in one turn and gunned an F-15. So it always boils down to who's driving the airplane. Don't ever forget that. I mean, if you hear some F-15 guys say, I always gun F-14s all the time. Well, pal, you haven't fought everybody, buddy. So you need to shut your mouth. And there's those who have been gunned and those who will have been gunned. So it always boils down to who's driving the airplane, period. Let's see here. Okay, Mark Moser, what would be the tricks an F5 Tiger driver would need to pull in order to win a dogfight against the F-14? Basically, probably not take off. If he takes off and you've got just an average driver in the F-14, he's going to kick the holy sheep shit out of the F-5. There's just nothing to do. I mean, it can't turn. It doesn't have a very good energy addition rate. It doesn't go vertical real well. And again, it's just a force multiplier that's very, very cheap. So there's not really a whole lot the F-14 couldn't do against an F-5 and gun its brains out, really. I mean, I'm serious. So hope I didn't pop your bubble there, that one there. Let's see here. Okie, where are the differences between how the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Air Force did intercept BVR training? Pretty much the same. I think the Air Force probably does more of that. You know, their F-15 guys don't carry bombs, so they're kind of a, you know, that's what they do. They go out and do intercepts all the time, and they work 2V unknown and 2V stuff. We did 2 all the time because we didn't start carrying bombs till later on. And now the F-14's gone. The Hornet guys are kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. So I'd say probably the Air Force is probably a little better when it comes to running a 2V unknown intercept out there with each other because they do that all the time, and that's all they do. So I'd say probably the Air Force might have a little bit of a nod when it comes to doing a 2V unknown engagements against the bad guys. Let's see here. Zigzag, ground zero, G fatigue. Are there any after effects, recovery time from pulling Gs during training combat flights? Does it hurt, headaches, muscles, cramp? No, but I'd come back and get what they call G measles. I'd go out there and I knew that I was above 7, probably closer to 8, 9 Gs on my left arm for some reason, because that's the arm that'd be a little bit lower in my body, where I had my hands on the throttles. I'd come back and my left arm would be spotted with little red dots everywhere. We call those G measles. And I knew out there fighting, probably usually against F-15s, that I'd probably like, okay, I'll probably hit the old 7, 8 G meter today probably. So that's what happens. As far as headaches go, that kind of stuff, not, you know, that never bothered me. I had no problems. Kind of lucky, I guess, basically. Let's see here. Many thanks for your fascinating interviews, both this one and previous. Sir, have you ever flown World War II warbirds? Which aircraft would you like to have flown? I never have. I don't have any tail dragger times. That kind of alleviates me from the World War II stuff. Although I would have loved to have flown an F-8F Bearcat. I think those airplanes are just so awesome. And when I see one of those, I just literally wet myself because the sound and the power of a Bearcat just really, really impresses me. So that's kind of my choice. Hello, have you ever flown against Eastern fighters in trainings? That came from a Obliviator. I'm not sure what you mean by Eastern fighters. You mean the Eastern Soviet bloc guys? I have not. I have flown against their airplanes, though. I've flown against the MiG-21, the MiG-17, and the MiG-23, and I flew those against probably the best pilots known to man, my fellow Air Force and Navy guys. So unless they're better than those guys, I wouldn't really fear them a whole lot. So that's my take on flying against the bad guys. Let's see here. Mike JF, what consists often cable scoring system on the deck when it comes to landings? How is a good landing judged to a bad landing with which cable you catch? It's not so much the cable as it's just the kind of pass you fly. If you get a 1 wire, chances are the best you're going to get is a fair. 2, 3, 4 wire. If you fly a nice smooth pass on speed, you're going to get probably an okay for 2, 3, 4. I've gotten a few okay ones, but they're using MOVLES, which is different than the Fresnel lens. So it's not always what cable you get, but basically what kind of pass you flew as far as just on lineup, on speed, that kind of stuff. That makes sense. Let's see here. Paul Barrett, am I right in thinking that the first F-14 didn't have a proper HUD? And how was that to land at night? The F-14, the D is the only F-14 that had a HUD that was worth a shit when it came to landing aboard the ship. The A and the B HUD, when you had in the landing mode, all the landing stuff was basically about 15 to 20 degrees above the horizon through your HUD. So as you came into the land, it was nowhere near the landing area. So it didn't do you any good whatsoever. So coming aboard the ship, day and or night, I would turn my HUD off. I didn't, just distracted me. F-14D HUD, though, was an excellent HUD, had a great flight path marker, and they finally got their act together, Grumman did, and put in a better HUD in the D, and it was awesome. It was super, super. Okay, BM 1156. Okie, first, thank you for your service. Thank you. From an XAT tweaker, 7579, ALQ 100s, ALR 4550s. Tell us your hairiest night trap story. Thank you. Okay, my hairiest night trap was second, third cruise, Indian Ocean, during what they call the monsoon season out there, where it's basically not so much rain, but it's where the deck is always moving 25 to 30 feet day and night, and it turns you into a deck spotter. And one night I came in out there, and the deck dropped down in front of me, and I came down, and my tail hook hit first and bounced up and stuck in my engine nacelle, which I did not know that. And I made 5 more passes with not getting any wires. And of course, everybody's now wondering what's happening. And they finally joined on me and told me my hook was stuck in my engine nacelle. So I taped 9 times that night and flew over to Miscellaneous. Kind of a hairy deal. Let's see here. Hansy Dent, how did you like the side stick in the F-16? Does the lack of a canopy frame make a big difference? It's funny you ask that. First of all, the F-16 side stick, I loved. I love it. It's the only way to fly an airplane. It is so awesome. It is super. I mean, my second flight in the F-16, I did a section takeoff on the wing. It's that easy and that smooth. Secondly, the F-16, you sit so high up in it that during really nasty weather, when you're flying in the goo and you're coming down, and it's kind of nice to kind of get down low in your seat and kind of get up close to the old gyro in front of you there. The F-16, because the 33-degree seat slant, you sat away from the gyro and you sat high because your hips basically were just below the canopy frame. So it was a little different feeling when you're flying in the clag and stuff in the F-16. Took a while to get used to it. Let's see here. Okay, zigzag. Ejection underwater training. Can the pilot breathe through his oxygen mask underwater? Sounds like horror. It is horror, and yes, you can. The mask and stuff in the upper block is designed for 1 atmospheric depth. So yes, you can breathe in your oxygen, and once you pop your seat pan, you got about 15 minutes of air left in your seat pan to breathe. So you're right. It would be a very horrific evolution to go through. I've talked to a couple of friends of mine that did happen to them, and they managed to get out of the airplane, and they're alive today because of it. But those same guys I was standing next to during an electrical storm also followed them to Vegas and put money on whatever number they bet on, because they got the golden touch, man. Trust me. Let's see here. Robbie Drummond, as a former A4 pilot, were you surprised at the performance of the Sea Harrier during the Falklands War? Do you believe the latest version of Sidewinder and AIM-9L had a decisive effect on combat? Yes, I do. It's not so much the performance of the Harrier as it was the performance of the missile. The AIM-9 Lima the Brits carried is awesome. It never failed, and they just shot the crap out of the Argentinas. So, it wasn't any turning and burning. It was just running there on them, and they would turn tail and run, and the Harriers would basically fire their AIM-9 Lima at them all aspect and take them out of the sky. So it was the missile. Let's see here. John Ellis at Mike JF. See if you can find a copy of the CV here in ATOS manual somewhere online. It's a PDF. Okay. I have no idea. RI 661. Pilot skill being equal. Which is the better WVR fighter? I'm not sure what that means. The Hornet or the Super Hornet? They're both the same. The Legacy Hornet's probably faster because of the way it's designed in the centerline belly. But again, both of them are kind of jack of all trades, master of none. They've got really good weapon systems on them, but as far as performance goes, I would take an F-14D any day of the week. Let's see here. Namorex. Are you a veteran? Yes, I am. for NanoRex. Edison Simone, thanks for the answer, sir. You should do an interview with Yellow and Sunshine at Fighter Pilot Podcast. Hey, Okie Grayson here, one of the Heat Blur folks. How you doing? Good to see you. I'm doing great, pal. I thoroughly enjoyed flying y'all's simulator last time. Let's see here. Adam Steele, what's the worst oh shit moment you've had to contend with in your flying career? Probably one time, hate to admit this, I was flying from Tinker Air Force Base to Miramar, and usually you had to stop someplace, but I had a real urge to get out there because I had a girlfriend out there, and myself and another good buddy of mine were in the airplane, and we one-legged it 1,000 miles against the wind out to Miramar, and we landed with a lot less gas than what I anticipated. That was kind of like the oh shit moment. You know, you kind of get out there, and there you are. But you know, as good men with steel nerves and small brains, we got through it. We landed and never said a word. So that's kind of my story. I'm sticking with it. Let's see here. IWS FOD. Hi, Okie. Thanks for the Q&A. I have been flying the Tomcat and DCS for a bit now and have some questions. Every time I put down the landing gear, there are huge bang noises. Do you know what are those? It's probably just the gear doors coming down. That's all it is, probably. And that wasn't unusual because you got big locks that come unlocked there, and you drop the gears. So I'm guessing that's probably what that is. The Heat Blur guys put that stuff in there to give it a little more simulation, I guess. Maybe that's all I can think of. Let's see here. John Ellis, they have dynamic lift control on the F-35C, known as Magic Carpet upgrade on the F-18EF. Suppose makes landing easy. Pilots who've flown with it doesn't think it's so trapping. I have no idea what that is. I flew aboard the ship when men were steel, so I have no idea. It's kind of maybe a cotton candy way of doing the stuff now. I've heard about Magic Carpet, and it's supposed to kind of dampen out some of the control inputs and keep the aircraft a little more smoother coming in the window. That's about all I know about it, really. Let's see here. John Gisborne. Hello, sir. Did you ever get the chance to do a dogfight against the Mirage 2000? And if so, what did the Americans think about Mirage 2000? I never flew the Mirage 2000, but you know, it's delta wing, which means it's got one good turn. It's not a slow airplane. If it gets slow, it's in trouble. The energy addition rate is probably not too bad, but you know, basically, if I was in a Tomcat or F-16, I'd be on it like steak on crap and be all over and keep it turning and keep it slow, and should be pretty easy to beat, actually. Okay, let's see here. Okay, without revealing any top secret info, in your opinion, is a Chinese aircraft carrier wing? Let's see, I lost it. Something about the Chinese aircraft carrier wing. Yeah, they're a joke. They're a total joke. So are the Russians. You know, they're good DFER guys only. Okay, let's see here. Also, for guns only merge, what would be recommended merging speed? 400 knots, instant pull, 15 AOA have been pretty good. You know, I would go at least 425, 450, make a nose-low slice, same direction. Keep the press on. Make that guy fly his best airplane, and making sure I'm flying my best airplane. Let's see here. Paul Barrett, what was your max speed and height and speed in the F-14, and what was your min altitude and max speed in the F-14? Well, min altitude obviously was, I can't say zero, I wouldn't be here. I've been down to 50 feet, you know, at 500 knots. You know, that's good enough. Max altitude, I've been to 65,000 feet in a B. And max speed, I've seen a little over Mach 2 on maintenance runs. So, you know, max speed legal is 1.88, but once in a while, the airplane felt pretty good. I let it run, and up there at 45,000 feet, it ran like a thoroughbred. I've seen 1.3 basically in like zone 3. I wasn't even zone 5 down at 100 feet. And 1.3 at 100 feet, fly by the carrier, you're moving, pal. You are moving. And I don't even look outside. My eyeballs are glued to the gauges. Let's see here. Calvin Junge. Hi, I like your channel. I was wondering, what is your opinion on the black government aircraft and projects such as the Aurora TR-3B I have no idea. Don't have any idea whatsoever. Martin Strumpfer, do you think a modern F-14, i.e. new lightweight structure, digital flight controls and systems would have been better than the Hornet and the F-35? F-35C, no. Better than the Hornet, yes. Adam Steele, we live and learn, mate. IWS, food or FOD. Again, the F-35C also have removed the guns from the plane, but the F-35A retains them. Do you think this is a mistake? I've gone back and forth on this. The gun's heavy. The gun's 2,000 pounds. And every carrier airplane is always weight limited. And in today's evolution, with the weapons they have now, surface to air, the days of, Sergeant Rock rolling in and strafing guys on the ground is trust the F-86, not going to happen. You'll be a statistic. So carrying a gun to strafe somebody on the ground, not going to happen. And the Air Force, just because their mindset, their hard-headedness, they wanted the gun. And so they kept the gun in there. It's only got like maybe 200 rounds. What are you going to shoot down with 200 rounds? And let's face it, if you get to the merge and you shot all your AMRAAMs and you shot all your AIM-9s, and now all you have left is a gun, buddy, it's not your day. You're probably not going to make it back. So that's my idea with the gun. So let's see here. Clark 500 KR. Given equal drivers, imagine you had choice of one fighter to take with you to fight a MiG. Which fighter of all you have flown would you take into combat? Again, assuming best efficiency for drivers. I take probably an F-16. A clean F-16, TF or GE engine. I take an F-16. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Just for just plain go out there and kick ass. What aircraft would you have liked to have flown? I would say I would like to have flown the F-15. I think the F-15 would be an awesome airplane to fly clean. No centerline drop tank, go out there and just kick ass. It's a good flying airplane. It's a great airplane. It's a good groveling airplane. So yeah. Let's see here. John Ellis, Clark 500 KR. Which model MiG? Don't know. Do you have opinions of what might have happened to Lieutenant Commander Stacy Bates? He took off and went into a vertical in the F-14 and then came down straight on the clouds. Navy said vertigo. I'm unfamiliar with that. I have no idea. If that's the guy that killed himself in Nashville, it's him being a plumber. Someone does something like that, he kills himself, basically. Let's see here. Others said TF-30 stall and a vertical. No, I'm not buying that. No, pilot error. Victor Clark, 500 KR. Navy said he was showboating in front of his parents and it failed to rely on his instruments, came straight down, crashing and killing 4 people. Okay, there you go right there. That's what I said happened. So yeah, you got. What is your opinion on non-catapult equipped aircraft carriers? They carry airplanes because none of the airplanes I'm going to fly going to have catapults. So I can't really see how if you got F-35Bs on there, piece of cake. If you don't, then I'm not sure what's happening. Let's see here, John Ellis. Have you flown with ADM-160 miniature air launch decoy? Nope, don't have a clue what it is. Paul Barrett, how do you see the future of the fleet with the likes of the wingman drone on the cards, et cetera, et cetera? I don't know. I mean, there's some talk here and there about maybe the carrier may go away. I don't see that happening. But with the threat now pushing the carriers out 1,000 miles or better, that puts them out of the range of any F-18s doing anything. So, you're kind of pushing the carrier away from its ability to do any kind of strategic strike stuff. So yeah, it'll be interesting down the road. Have you ever had to eject from an aircraft? No, I have not. Close a couple times, but no cigars. That's one club I'd assume not be part of. Think to your suggestion of driving the flight uphill. I've been pretty successful at fighting the Hornet in big engines, but how would I be successful if you have to fight the Hornet versus the Cat? I'd keep it a nice tight fight, and then once I got him bled down, I started driving the fight uphill, both in the A and the B, or in the D. Let's see here. Have you heard of the Mach loop? Ever flown through it? I have no idea. That's something that all the geeks out west have thought up mock loop. When I saw that, I go like, what? It means nothing to the guys flying it. It's just a route they fly. There's no, let's go do the mock loop today. There's none of that crap at all. That's something you guys have thought up or somebody out there. I'm totally unfamiliar with that, so not a big deal. What do you think of the lightweight fighter FA-50 as a concept with modern avionics? Don't know. Anytime I hear lightweight, I go like, lightweight means maybe lightweight in the shorts. May not be that much to fighter to play with. Any flight time on old aircraft, F-111? Nope, I was never an Air Force guy. I didn't want to fly it. I chased them. It's typical Air Force. It's a pointy nose. It's a fighter, but it's strictly a bombing type aircraft. So let's see here. For the terrible position of the G meter in the cockpit, do you care about them while under BFM? Not really, because you could fire the gun and get a 10G split on the G meter of the Tomcat. So, G meter itself was kind of, that's where it was. That's what they went by. F-16, different matter. It had an internal G meter that they could download. They knew exactly how many Gs you pulled the F-16. So F-14, Grumman was kind of like, oh yeah, okay, we'll put a G meter on there. That's where to put it. Let's see here. Hansi Dent, did you ever fly a glider? Were you almost lie in the sea? What do you think of gliders? I've never done a glider. One of my best friends, Stu Black in RAF Rio in the UK, he's retired. Great, one of the best Rios I've ever flown with. He's a big-time glider guy. He can fly us to the UK all the time, goes to 10, 20, 30,000 feet in his glider. He does a big time, really enjoys it. So let's see here. Do you, Charlie Leffy, do you see the need for a new fleet defense fighter for the Navy? Well, it depends on how active they want to get the carrier. I mean, the Hornet cannot do what the F-14 did as far as protect the fleet or protect the carrier. So it all depends on what the mission requirement is going to be and how they want to use the carrier. And again, with the weapons they have that can push the carrier over 1,000 miles away from the threat, that makes the F-18 not real plausible in trying to protect the carrier. Just can't do it. Let's see here. Can you explain more about the DLC and the Tomcat, and are they useful in combat? DLC only comes on when you have the main flaps down, gear and main flaps down. So during ACM, it'd be non-usable. So, and you only have DLC for the enclosed position correction of the airplane. If you're using DLC, you're making pretty crappy corrections. You have to engage DLC. You don't have to, but it makes the airplane fly a little better, a little more of a nose canted up on it. It was always plus 4 knots faster with DLC engaged, and but it's a good way to correct at night in close instead of dropping your nose. Because you drop your nose, your hook point to ramp clearance moved 10 feet, which meant that you probably bought yourself a bolter. So instead of moving your nose, you just bump a little down DLC, keep the same attitude. Airplane comes down to a nice 3-wire, and you're good to go. So I like DLC, but again, I didn't use it that often. Let's see here. What aircraft pushed you the most to fly and dogfight in? Probably another F-16, well-flown F-16. Air Force F-16s weren't that hard to beat up on, but another Navy F-16 guy flying the airplane. If he never let himself get slow and stayed fast out there and say we're doing a guns only type evolution, he'd have me working my ass off, big time. Let's see here, Mike JF. How would you feel if you had a female Rio? I'd feel okay if she's doing her job. If she's not, it's like if she's not doing her job. Same way if a guy I flew with wasn't doing his job, and I've flown with some pretty crappy Rios, and guess what? I brought them back and I pistol whipped them. They got better, they got gone. Same with her. So she does her job and professional about it, no big deal. If she's riding along back there and 150 pounds of blah, then I just soon give me more gas. So I hope I answered your question. I'm not a male chauvinist pig either. Okay, here, let's see here. When Navy Tomcats went up against Libyan MiG-23s, the Rio sounds uptight, and when he calls Fox 1, a pilot says, "Oh, Jesus, good kill, dumb Libyans, but story is that Rio panicked a little true. No, I can go into a long evolution. If you're talking about the VF-32 shoot down, that was pretty much a joke. Ahmed and Abdul were on their FAM 1 and 2 that day and stumble on very unprofessional Rio in the lead, and that's all I'll say about that one there. It's VF-32 shoot down is a joke. The first two shoot downs, VF-41, those guys, very squared away, very professional. The next set of shoot downs, VF-32 was a joke. Those guys should have been bitch slapped. Okay. Albiator, is it possible to land the F-14 on a carrier with only one engine? Yes, it's been done. And it's not easy, but it's doable. The airplane is designed to land with one engine, and you trim it up, and you fly a good ball. You fly a little high and a little fast in there, and it does well. Let's see here. Did you ever practice or take part in actual Alpha Strike? How do you prepare for those? Well, you go to Fallon for your 3-week, they call their Fallon dev, where the whole air wing's up there, and there's where you practice doing Alpha Strikes there. So when you do an Alpha Strike, a real one or a simulated one off the ship, that's where you get your act together, you do it there. So a lot of coordination. Alpha Strikes are kind of a thing in the past because we got airplanes now that do a better job by themselves, dropping bombs and smart weapons, so there's no need to drag 15, 18, 25 aircraft up there to hit one bridge. They can send one airplane in and do it at night. So the Alpha Strikes are kind of gone away. Do you have let's see here. Do you have a favorite story / exchange with your Rio? Not really. I got a lot of good Rio stories, but they're kind of long. Did you ever use the automated carrier landing system? No, the F-14 really didn't have. It had one of those, but it didn't work that often, and it's hard to keep up. There was, like I said, a force leak in the back of the airplane, so that was kind of tough to get going. So no, I never have used one. I did one hands-off landing at Oceana just to check a system out one time, and the stick was moving like a wild man. I mean, it was my legs had gotten in the way, it would beat up both my kneecaps. Let's see here. Calvin Jungs, did you ever fly an SR-71, and what do you think about modern advancements in spy planes? I'm not Air Force, so I've never flown an SR-71. I've flown against SR-71s. I've seen them go over the top, and they come down to 80,000 feet, and they slow up to Mach 3. I guess great technology. It's a pretty awesome airplane, and we got stuff. We got airplanes that can do things that other people only dream about. Okay, let's see here. Would you agree F-14 AUG-9 2-man crew avionics architecture was outdated for most of the F-14 service life, and that the D model brought it into more relevancy of fleet air defense? No, the F-14A, when first designed, and I flew 3,000 hours worth, excuse me, I'm sorry. It was a good fleet air defense, so it carried the Phoenix missile, and the AUG-9 radar was a good radar, still a good radar for doing, long-range vector-logic defense of the aircraft carrier. The D actually made the airplane more of a over-the-dirt, engaged bomb-dropping capability airplane. It made it more tactically significant. So the D just improved things a lot. So let's see here. Hansy Dent, before you started your career, what was the aircraft you wanted to fly? I guess probably Phantom, but when I went through, there's only one Phantom available, and I was down the list about 4 guys. The number 1 guy got Phantoms, number 2 guy got A7s, number 3 guy got A6s, and I was number 4 of about 40 guys, and I got A4s. And I was supposed to go to A4 Air Wing in Lemoore, and they closed up shop before I even left Beeville, and they changed it to a VC squadron, so I went to VC5 Deck QB in the Philippines, flying A4 Limas, airplanes that were older than me. So it was a good experience. I went there and did my thing. Let's see here. John Ellis, what's your thoughts on the MQ-25 drone as a fleet tanker? It seems like using F-18 as tanker seems a waste of a fighter. Yeah, probably so, but somebody's got to carry the tanker package. So, until you get a whole mess of those drone things in the air, it's going to be a F-18 EF carry the tanker package. So you know, you got to use your fleet assets, and that's what they got to do, and they do it. So you know, that's the best I can tell you. Let's see here. How do formation lights work? Well, you have your lights. Formation lights have a bright and a dim switch on them. Most of the time, you're flying around at night by yourself. They're on bright. But when your winged joins up, you turn your anti-collision light off, and you turn your wing lights or strip lights down to dim so they don't blind him. And he uses his anti-collision light to help light up your airplane so he can fly off of it, and he does his thing. So night flying is something you need to work at. It's not easy, but you got to be able to do it and do it well. Because I have sat many hours on the wing of my lead, being a youngster at night doing my thing. So, okay, without the autopilot, I had a hard time keeping the plane flying straight. Require constant trimming. Do you have a